If you are an artist struggling to get your music heard, then please watch this video, because I think this is possibly the most important video I have done, at least for a long time. In this video, I'm going to tackle 3 concepts, 3 ideas, and 3 reasons why artists, I believe, are failing the most around getting their music heard, and what you can do today to make all of the difference. I promise you, this is such a big one. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Damian Keyes. I've been working with artists in development and education for, I'm going to say 25 years. It's a long time. It's actually been longer than that, but let's not give my age away. I do moisturize. We work with a lot of artists on a daily basis. We have thousands of artists within DKMBA. We also work with a lot of artists in social media and management. We've just had 3 record deals in the last 60 days. So I really do feel that we are, I'm going to say, knee deep in this, in development and education. And this week I was at an event. It was an artist event, and every single artist who performed was asked a question, which is, what are you struggling with the most? Every single one of them, without fail. They didn't say the music. They didn't say how expensive it is. They didn't say the lack of time. They all said the same thing. They said social media and promotion. Everyone used this sort of social media as, I can't get my music heard. I believe in myself. I believe in my music. But when it comes to short form content and the algorithm, I am really struggling. And this really pains me. It pains me the most, because I guess that's the biggest part of what I do on a daily basis. And I think when it comes to this, artists overthink. They overthink their socials. They overthink where social media even fits into the grand scheme of you being an artist. And I personally believe that you've done the hard work. When you're an artist and you've spent so long on your music, on your talent, on yourself, that the socials should just be that last 20%. It's the 80%, 80-20 rule. 80% is all the stuff you've done. The 20% is how we're going to get this out there. And if it becomes the other way around, where socials and promotion is the 80%, we are absolutely doing this wrong, because it shouldn't be that. Artists have a creative brain, very creative, and that from a creative brain, I always think that, I'm not that creative, hence being a bass player, very practical minded. And so I'm very envious of you guys having, very creative brains, being able to build these awesome aspirational things. And the problem with that is, what comes with the positives is the negatives. The negatives are the overthinking, the perfectionism, the burnout, the anxiety, all of those things, because of you've got the equal and opposite reaction. And so what we need to do here is we need to take a slightly more practical approach and think about what you want to do versus what you want to happen. I'll go through these 3 concepts. What do you want to do versus what you want to happen? In my opinion, socials is all about what you want to happen, not what you want to do. Okay, if it goes into, I fancy doing all of these different things, socials doesn't work, as we're about to find out. What do we want to happen? I'm working with one artist at the moment. There's a lot of labels sniffing around, and I think she's going to get a major label deal. And my job is, all I want to do is I want to be able to walk in that meeting. Ideally, I could walk in with her and sit down with a major label and just say, get your checkbook out, because this is going to be expensive. But it's the right thing to do. And it's the right thing to do, because this artist is going to do something big, and it's going to make you a lot of money. So therefore, we've got the leverage. If you don't want it, I'll take it somewhere else. And I want that label to say, yes, that is what I want to happen. Therefore, when it comes to socials, what do I want to do? I want to back up that message. I want to back up the message that I can walk in with my head held high and be like, this is going to happen with or without you. And that label's going to go, it should be with us. Now, what I'm not doing is saying, what do I fancy doing on socials? I'm like, no, that's not the point. What I want to do with socials is back up what I want to happen. So here are the concepts, right? 3 concepts that I think that you can change or improve today, and where artists are failing the most. And the first one is identity, okay? As an artist, you have an identity. The problem is that identity going across everything? And by everything, I mean coherent in everything that you do. So here is a an example I would like you to check out. I want you to go into your Spotify for artists. I want you to go into the back end, into the stats, and I want you to look at your audience. I want you to look at the demographics. I want you to look at age. I want you to look at location. I want you to look at gender. I want to look at anything that you can get out of the stats from the back of your Spotify for artists of who is listening to the music and the message of you as an artist. And then I want you to go into your TikTok, into your Instagram, into your Facebook, or any other social media platform you use, and I want you to do the same thing. I want you to do an overview of the entire platform. I want you to check out any data that we can get, and then I want you to go to your biggest 3 or 4 pieces of content over the last couple of months, and I want you to check out the data. Make sure this is organic reach and not something you've put money into. I want you to check out the data. Now, a lot of the time when I do this, the message isn't getting through in the right way, and I know this because the data isn't matching up across the audio, the music, the lyrics, the subject matter, and the visuals of what you are doing to promote it. And so what we've got to do with this coherent strategy is we have to make sure that as an artist you have an identity. And I'm not talking about a shirt or a brand or a color scheme. I'm talking about who you represent. That's what identity is. Identity is representation. Every big artist will represent a certain demographic. Now, they might have a couple of avatars, a couple of demographics, but when you start, you tend to represent a certain type of person. So let's say you're, for example, a 29-year-old singer-songwriter living in Middle America who sings songs about emotional breakups. It means probably, not for sure, but probably your audience is going to be predominantly, not all, but predominantly based towards females, probably going to be 25 to 35 because of the emotional narrative that you are telling. If your music is now going out to 45 to 55 on visuals, we start going, hang on, the audio, the lyrics, the subject matter versus what you are doing isn't matching up. And if, for example, it's that same audience, but what we're seeing on TikTok, for example, because of what you're doing is going out to 18 to 25-year-olds, we're like, hang on, this isn't matching up. Now, the identity, and the reason why this is important, goes through everything. It doesn't go through just socials and music. It's who you are. It's who you represent. And so therefore, what I want you to do is I want you to create this avatar, and I want you to name the avatar. And so if your avatar is male and they're 26 years old and they live in a certain country and they like a certain type of music, I want you to name that avatar. We're going to call them Jeff, okay? Now, the reason why we call him Jeff is because the more we know about Jeff, the more we can focus everything that we do around Jeff. We just say, hang on, when I'm writing this song, is Jeff going to relate to this song? When I make this social media content, is Jeff going to relate to this social media content? With the press release, with the bio, with the about section, with the picture, with the videos. Now, this sounds really, really obvious, but most artists don't do this. So what happens is, I'm looking at some vulnerable singer-songwriter who's singing songs about being a dad or singing songs about a breakup, and then I go to look at the hero picture, and it looks like they've just been arrested and they're holding one of those signs up, and I'm just like, 33-year-old women who are into this message are not into that picture, mate. They just aren't. All of a sudden, you look like something from Serial Killer Netflix documentary 101. It isn't matching. But what they've done is they've gone, yeah, but I like the picture. And it's like, I don't care what you like. What I care is, what does the audience like? What is the demographic like? So therefore, if we're going to go and do a photo shoot, then I'm thinking of Jeff or Sandra or whoever the demographic is. And it's the same thing for the about section, getting away from technicalities. Well, I was born in this place and I started playing guitar at this place, blah, blah, blah. No, the avatar doesn't really care. The avatar cares about themselves. So what we've got to do is we've got to have a coherent message, visually, audibly, subject matter. If your audience is 37 years old, you can't be talking about high school because they're just going to go, oh, I don't really remember high school. Not unless it was a nostalgic kind of way. Now, it sounds obvious, but that coherency has to go through everything as you are as an artist. And you can go through massive artists. If you look at someone like John Mayer predominantly attracts musicians as his audience. Yes, he has a bit of the housewife market, but you go to a John Mayer gig, it's a bunch of musicians and a bunch of music connoisseurs that like John Mayer. If you go to an Adele gig, it's predominantly sort of the housewife market, or possibly the divorced housewife market with Adele. Not that I'm trying to, cast aspersions, but that tends to be more for her audience. If you look at Alex Hormozy, it's Unfuckable Men. If you look at Damian Keyes, it's Legends. Like, I don't want to belittle it, but at the same point, you're representing someone. That's the thing. It's not about you. It's who you're representing. That is your identity, and it needs to go through everything that you do. If it is not coherent, then your numbers will not match, because what you're trying to say and do are not matching with who you should be representing. So think about that word. Who do you represent? That is key. Now, number 2. Familiarity. Familiarity is so important. Let me give you an example, right? You are walking down the street, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, someone's walking towards you, you are walking the other way, and for 5 seconds, you look up, catch their eye, you walk straight past. Now, next day, or 2 days later, you are walking at a different part of town. That person is walking towards you, different clothes, with a different group of people, possibly on the same side of the road. You look up. Do you recognize them? Probably not. You saw them for 5 seconds out of 24 hours. Why would you recognize them again the next day? What about 3 days later? Probably not. You're not going to recognize that person. But what if that person was walking towards you and they had like a really cool purple jacket and a really cool cap on, and they were holding an umbrella, but it was sunny? And you go, interesting. The next day, you're in a different part of town, different location, but they've got a purple jacket on, same cap, and they're holding the umbrella. At that point, you go, I saw you yesterday. Because you recognize the clothes, the whole package. I saw you yesterday. Interesting. 2 days later, you see them in a different part of town. You don't go, I saw you 2 days ago. You go, it's you again. No way. That's really interesting. I've seen you like 3 times this week. Fast forward 3 days later, you're like, there they are. God, I see you all the time. You can see how the context of familiarity is building up. Same thing with socials. You see someone for 5 seconds. Whoosh, they're gone. Why are you going to remember them tomorrow? And as a creative, what we're trying to do is we're trying to be creative. So therefore, we're going to go in, what do I fancy doing today? Maybe I'll do a behind the scenes video. Maybe I'll do a carousel. Maybe I'll do a picture. Maybe I'll do a long form video. Maybe I'll do short form video. Maybe I'll do a mimed. Maybe I'll do live. Maybe I'll do it in the car. Maybe I'll do it outside. Maybe I'll wear this purple thing. Maybe I'll wear a hat. All of a sudden, you're giving the audience the least amount of chance to remember who you are, because we're trying so hard, because we're going, I've got to make it interesting. But what we're trying to do there is we are trying to focus on the people who love you, the people who recognize the context, and we're forgetting everybody else, which is almost everybody in the world. So why can't we just sit in a car and just say, I make TikToks in a car? Honestly, it's fine. Like, that's fine. I can sit in a car and I can do a TikTok every single day, and I can have a different message, and I can have a different song if I want to, and I can do that every single day, because most people aren't seeing 100% of your content. They're seeing 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, and they might not see it for 3 or 4 or 5 days, and we're trying to get them to recognize you. So the familiarity is really, really important, but artists don't want to do it. They want to go, what do I fancy creating today? Here's a behind the scenes, and everyone's going, God, I don't remember you from yesterday. Why am I going to want to know what's behind the scenes? There's no context. And we've gone from this idea that for everyone who was doing this 3-4 years ago, where it's like, I just can't get this outside of my friends and family. We've got the opposite problem. Now it's like, keep showing my stuff to just random people all of the time. It's new people. Great problem to have, but I'd like to build a community of people who see the same thing again and again and again. Well, in that case, we need the identity, but we need some familiarity. Stop making your feed completely different things. Just say, look, what I'm here to do is me, my music, my talent, and my message. That's it, or the identity. Those 4 things, churn them out again and again. If you're making a piece of content which doesn't have your music in, why? If you're making a piece of content that you are not in, why? Like, we are not here to do trends. That's a TikTok influencer. We're here to create an army of people that love you and love your music. So think about that familiarity. Think about 5 seconds. That's all you've got, which means tomorrow, they need to recognize you again with that 5 seconds. And how are they going to recognize you? And this brings me on to the third concept, and this is emotion. Emotion is the be-all and end-all. It's why you write songs. It's how you got into music in the first place, and it's what music is inherently all about. Music is emotion. And when I say emotion, I don't mean like JP Sachs. It's just like, oh, emotion, sad. I'm talking about emotion. any kind of emotion. When I was 15 years old, my best friend put on a Rage Against the Machine CD, and I've never heard it, and I literally was like, this changed my life. And it wasn't sadness, it was anger, and it was power, and it was angst. It was all of those emotions that came to me that went, yes, someone represents me. It wasn't sadness or vulnerability. That's what music represents. And so let me ask you a question. What does your music make me feel? What does your music make you feel? You're like, oh, I can answer that question. It makes me feel powerful, or it makes me feel like I'm heard, or whatever emotion it is. Now, if I said to you, you're about to walk on stage, it's 1,000 people, they're going to go crazy. They're like, oh, how does that make you feel? You're like, oh, it's going to make me feel amazing. And I want them to have a great time. I want them to feel amazing. Great. What does your socials make you feel? Most people are like, nothing. Just, I'm anxious, nauseous. Like, there isn't the feeling in socials. But think about it. That's the most important place for the emotion. That's where the emotion needs to be more than anywhere. Because otherwise what we're doing is we're saying, hey, do you want some emotion? By the way, it's over in Spotify. People are going to go, in that case, no. We're gone. That's the most important place to put the emotion. So therefore, when people say to me, oh, I don't mind doing TikTok, but it's just I don't want to be cheesy. And I'm like, well, don't be cheesy. What a stupid question. That's like me kind of going, hey, you write songs. I want to write songs, but I don't want to be cheesy. You'd be like, well, don't write cheesy songs. Stands to reason. I want to go and do gigs, but I don't want to be cheesy. Well, don't do a cheesy gig. I want to do some covers, but I don't want to do cheesy. Well, don't sing blue, blue dabble dee-ba. That's cheesy. Like, don't do that. Like, same thing with socials. If you don't want to be cheesy, don't be cheesy. Be emotional charged, emotional connection, emotional context is the key. So I want you to ask 3 questions when you're about to promote a song, okay? The first question is, what is this song about? The second question is, why did you write this song? And the third question, most importantly, is how did that make you feel? Okay. Now, what most artists do is they get caught up in number 1 and they go, oh, I need to promote my song. What's it about? Well, the song's about a breakup. So you go, great. I wrote a song about a breakup. Great. No emotion. Nobody cares. How boring. But when you say, okay, why did you write the song about the breakup? They go, well, I was going through a really bad breakup. All of a sudden you're like, oh, right. I understand more. Bit more emotional depth. Okay. Wow, you were going through a breakup. Okay, well, what happened? They tell you what happened. You go, oh, that sounds painful. How did that make you feel? And they go, horror. It made me feel lost and alone and lonely and angry and sad and desperate. And I was like, all of those emotions, I understand. I understand every single emotion. But when you say this song's about a breakup, I'm like, I understand the context, but I don't understand the emotional context of why you wrote the song. But now I do. So instead of saying something like, POV, you've just been through a breakup, like, there's no emotion in that. Or send this to the person who's just been through a breakup. It's like, don't do that. That's mean. That's horrible. Whereas if you just said, guys, I've just been through a horrific breakup and I'm so lost and alone and I didn't really know what to do. So I wrote this song about how I feel. People will go, oh shit. I want to hear the lyrics. I want to hear what this is about. I want to hear what you're going through because you gave emotional context, not actual context. So I use this word context and everyone takes the piss and everyone's just like, Damian, context. And I'm like, no, context is just an explanation. Emotional context. Make somebody feel something. The same way as a music makes someone feel something. The same way as a gig makes somebody feel something. Social media is there to make somebody feel something. And it doesn't have to be sad. I've used that example about a breakup. It doesn't have to be that at all. It can be anger. It can be funny. It can be laughter. It can be silliness. It can be whatever you represent, the things that you represent. But we have to make somebody feel. And that last question is, how does that make you feel? That's the bit we've got to get into socials. And therefore, we can make socials much, much easier because we can't sit in a car. Because we can sit in a car every single day, get that familiarity, get a really easy shot. But if we're getting the emotional power across, all of a sudden, we are making all of the difference. Do you see what I mean? We've gone from the identity, we've gone to the familiarity, we've got the emotion. After that, rinse and repeat. I don't want socials to be complicated. I want to get past that so we can start to work on everything else for that the socials build up to give you those opportunities. But right now, I feel like The hardest part is everyone is blaming socials because they see it as 80% of the job, because it's easy to write the song, because it's easy to go, or the concept is easy to go and get something produced or arranged or mixed or mastered. You understand the concept. When it comes to promotion or social media especially, people go, I don't really understand. So it feels like 80% of the work. Well, it isn't. You've done 80% of the work. Who you are, your identity, what you're saying, your subject matter, your lyrics, the song that you've made, the live performances that you are capable to do. That's the 80%. How we wrap this up into the package that people understand, that they get the emotional connection with you, 20%. It's just not that deep. It's not that hard. So those are the three concepts that make the most amount of difference. And when I go on people's feeds and I'm seeing just loads and loads of crazy stuff, it's just trying too hard. And I'm like, no, I just want the familiarity. I want the connection. I want to feel something. After that, I don't care where you go. You don't have to skydive. You don't have to do that. All I need to know is, who are you? Why should I care? And then you put some emotional connection in there and I'm like, great. And the song will go in time and time again. And over a period of 5, 6, 7, 8 times, people are listening. They're like, I do like this song actually. Because the first time they listen to it, they're like, it's all right. Quite good. Second time, you're like, I remember you. Third time, they're like, oh, I know you. Oh, that song is a banger, by the way. All of a sudden, they're in the car. What are they going to do? Maybe I'll listen to some music. What shall I listen to? You. Why? Because it keeps going in. Because of the emotional connection that you have made. But the identity comes first. And so if you are struggling with putting stuff out and getting 200 views, then before we start blaming the algorithm and blaming social media, we need to find out why the water isn't going down the pipe into the bucket. And I promise you, it will be something to do with the demographic, the avatar of what you want to do versus what you want to happen. Or more importantly, what content you are making, what audio or message is going into your music, and how those things fit together. That is so crucial. So hopefully that helps. I feel like at the moment, I want to try and get away from this complexness of the socials being the bad guy, because it isn't, and it is a necessity. It's something we just have to do. Like anyone who's just like, I don't want to do TikTok. It's like, yeah, who does? Like, unfortunately, it's just one of those things. Doesn't mean it needs to be that hard. So, what are you struggling with the most? And does this make sense? I want to know in the comments. And if so, if you're struggling with your avatar, leave me a comment and I'll help. I'll get involved. An avatar is not as hard as you think it is. An avatar is kind of going, well, hang on, it's probably a lot to do with me. If I'm a 45-year-old guy, then I'm probably not making music for 14 to 16-year-old girls. It probably isn't. It's probably going to be guys or females in their 40s and 50s, probably. So it's a connection point for a reason. So if you're stuck, leave me a message in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully that helps, and I'll see you on the next one.